At 5:15 p.m. on a quiet Tuesday evening, Louisville's sky turned into fire. In less than 30 seconds, a massive cargo jet UPS Flight 976 transformed from a routine takeoff into a catastrophe that stunned the world. The aircraft, a McDonnell Douglas MD-11 bound for Honolulu, lifted from the runway at Muhammad Ali International Airport, its engines roaring in the fading daylight. But witnesses saw something horrifying. Flames pouring from its left engine. Seconds later, the plane banked sharply, lost altitude, and exploded into an inferno that consumed everything in its path. 7 people were killed instantly, dozens more were injured. Entire buildings turned to molten debris. For the families of those on board and the city that watched in disbelief, the question was simple. How could this happen? The aircraft was operating as UPS Flight 2976, a scheduled cargo route from Louisville to Honolulu, carrying high-value freight electronics, pharmaceuticals, and perishables across the Pacific. The crew of 3 were all experienced professionals. Captain Mike Reynolds, 49, a veteran pilot with more than 13,000 flight hours. Calm, meticulous, and deeply respected, he had been with UPS for nearly 2 decades. First Officer Jamie Porter, 36, a former U.S. Air Force pilot turned commercial aviator, known for his precision and humor in the cockpit. Loadmaster Karen Douglas, 41, a logistics specialist responsible for balancing the aircraft's heavy cargo load. Their mission was standard: depart Louisville at sunset, climb to cruising altitude, and make an 8.5-hour journey across the Pacific. What none of them knew was that within minutes of takeoff, their final flight would begin a chain of events that no one could stop. At 5:13 p.m. Eastern Time, Flight 2976 was cleared for departure from runway 17 Revolutions. The air was still, visibility clear. Tower recordings captured Captain Reynolds's calm voice. Tower, UPS 2976 ready for departure. Runway 17 right. UPS 2976 cleared for takeoff. Have a safe flight. The MD-11 began its roll down the runway. Inside the cockpit, the crew monitored engine readings, all appearing normal. But as the plane accelerated past 120 knots, witnesses near the tarmac noticed sparks trailing from the left engine number 1. By rotation speed around 165 knots, the left engine erupted in flames. The tower immediately called out, UPS 2976, we're seeing fire from your left engine, abort if able. But it was too late. The aircraft had already lifted off. Captain Reynolds's response was tense but controlled. Louisville Tower, 2976, we have an engine fire, returning to the field. The plane climbed only 400 feet before beginning to yaw violently to the left. The cockpit voice recorder later revealed the chaos that followed. First Officer Porter, we're losing hydraulics, engine 1 fire, light autopilot disengaged. Captain Reynolds, feathering number 1, fire handle pulled. She's not responding. Alarms blared, smoke began to fill the cockpit. The MD-11 was known for its complexity and unforgiving design, a plane that demanded constant precision. Losing one engine on takeoff was survivable, but if the pylon supporting that engine detached, taking with it hydraulic and electrical lines, the result was catastrophic. Witnesses below saw the left engine physically separate from the wing, falling toward the airport perimeter, trailing debris. The remaining 2 engines could not compensate for the asymmetric thrust. The jet rolled left, momentarily leveled, then plummeted nose first beyond the airport fence line. At 5:15 p.m., just 2 minutes after takeoff, UPS Flight 2976 struck the roof of a UPS warehouse and erupted in a ball of fire. Security footage from nearby businesses captured the explosion, a blinding flash followed by a mushroom of black smoke. The aircraft's 200,000 pounds of jet fuel ignited instantly, turning the industrial park into an inferno. Trucks, forklifts, and pallets of cargo were vaporized in seconds. The shockwave shattered windows half a mile away. Workers inside the warehouse were thrown to the ground. I heard this roar, like thunder, then everything shook, said one survivor. The next second, flames came through the windows. Emergency services rushed to the scene, but the heat was so intense that first responders could not approach for nearly 15 minutes. By the time firefighters reached the wreckage, the fuselage had melted into the ground. News spread within minutes. Local TV stations interrupted programming. Breaking news: UPS cargo plane has crashed near Louisville International Airport. Multiple explosions reported. Social media lit up with videos of flames rising over the city. Some witnesses claimed they saw the jet on fire before it even left the ground. UPS released a brief statement. "We are aware of an incident involving one of our aircraft departing Louisville. Our thoughts are with those affected." But inside the company's operations center, panic was setting in. Flight 2976 had been one of UPS's main Pacific cargo runs, carrying both critical freight and classified government shipments. The loss wasn't just human, it was logistical chaos. By nightfall, the fire still raged. More than 150 firefighters battled the inferno, pouring foam and water into the twisted wreckage. 7 bodies were recovered in the first hours, 3 crew members and 4 ground victims. At least 11 others were hospitalized, some with life-threatening burns. Entire sections of the UPS freight facility were destroyed. Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board (NTSB) and Federal Aviation Administration (FAA) arrived before midnight. Their mission: find the black boxes, identify what went wrong, and prevent it from ever happening again. The following morning, the NTSB confirmed recovery of both flight recorders. The cockpit voice recorder, though damaged by heat, was partially intact. Preliminary radar data showed the aircraft lost thrust and control within 27 seconds of liftoff. Investigators quickly located a massive piece of debris, the missing left engine, nearly half a mile from the impact site. That engine, it turned out, had separated from the wing due to a catastrophic failure of its mounting pylon. But what caused that failure? Early analysis pointed to metal fatigue and corrosion within a pylon bolt assembly, parts that may not have been replaced during recent maintenance. The MD-11's design, inherited from its DC-10 predecessor, had long been controversial. A series of crashes in the 1990s had revealed the aircraft's instability during takeoff and landing. Though UPS had retrofitted its fleet, some airframes were over 30 years old. Flight 2976's airframe, registered N293UP, was built in 1991, 34 years old at the time of the crash. At Louisville's UPS headquarters, grief overwhelmed the workforce. Vigils were held for Captain Reynolds, First Officer Porter, and Loadmaster Douglas. "They were the best of us," said a colleague. "They moved the world's packages, unseen, every night, and now they're gone." Families of warehouse victims gathered in shock. One father broke down on camera. "My son was just finishing his shift. He texted me, 'See you in 10. He never made it home." UPS set up a fund for victims' families, pledging millions in compensation, but for many, no amount of money could erase the image of that burning sky. Weeks later, NTSB engineers pieced together the fragments of the MD-11's left wing. They discovered that one of the engine pylon's attach bolts had fractured due to prolonged stress. Over time, vibration and metal fatigue had weakened it. When the aircraft reached takeoff, power engines producing over 60,000 pounds of thrust, the weakened bolt snapped, tearing the engine from its mount. That separation ripped through hydraulic and electrical lines, causing a cascade of system failures. Captain Reynolds and First Officer Porter fought heroically, but the aircraft was uncontrollable. One NTSB official later said, "They did everything right. This was not pilot error. This was mechanical failure, catastrophic and instantaneous." The UPS Flight 2976 tragedy sent shockwaves through the aviation community. The MD-11, already nearing retirement, faced renewed scrutiny. Air cargo carriers worldwide grounded similar aircraft pending inspection. Airlines were ordered to check for pylon corrosion and fatigue cracks. The FAA issued an emergency airworthiness directive, but the ripple effects went beyond engineering. For the first time, Americans saw how fragile the invisible infrastructure of logistics could be. Overnight, thousands of shipments were delayed, medical supplies, critical equipment, and consumer goods, all tied to the same network that the fallen crew had served. In the following weeks, speculation ran rampant. Was it poor maintenance, negligence, or corporate pressure to keep aging jets flying? Some news outlets published leaked memos suggesting UPS had delayed replacing several MD-11 pylons due to supply chain issues. Others claimed the crash exposed a wider industry problem: aging fleets operating under cost-saving shortcuts. UPS denied wrongdoing, insisting all maintenance had been up to federal standards. Still, the narrative grew darker: a billion-dollar company, a decades-old aircraft, and 3 dedicated crew members caught in the middle. After 10 months of analysis, the NSPS released its final report in September 2026. Probable cause: a structural failure of the left engine pylon assembly due to undetected fatigue cracking, resulting in separation of the engine during takeoff and subsequent loss of control. The report further cited inadequate inspection intervals, design vulnerabilities of the MD-11 pylon system, the aircraft's age and vibration history as contributing factors. The board recommended accelerated retirement of aging MD-11 cargo fleets and new inspection technologies to detect hidden corrosion. The site of the crash was rebuilt into a memorial plaza, with a bronze plaque listing the names of all 9 victims. Every year since, UPS workers gather there at dusk to light candles and remember their fallen colleagues. Captain Reynolds's wife spoke at the first memorial. He believed in flight. He believed in precision, in trust, in getting the job done. But above all, he believed that no one should ever die doing their job. In the end, the story of UPS Flight 2976 is not just about metal and fire. It's about human fragility inside the machine of global commerce. 3 people climbed into a cockpit to move the world's goods and never came back. A split-second mechanical failure exposed the limits of control in a system built on perfection. As investigators closed their final report, one sentence stood out: the crash of UPS Flight 2976 serves as a solemn reminder that safety is not an achievement, it is a pursuit that never ends. They took off carrying packages. They became a story that carried meaning. The fire over Louisville burned for hours, but its shadow will linger for decades. Every pilot, every mechanic, every controller who heard the final words of Captain Reynolds remembers what he said moments before impact: "We're coming back." But they never did. UPS Flight 2976 gone in seconds, remembered forever.